All right, now it is on. Are we all ready? I'm going to start the meeting. Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday, September 1st, 2020, 7 p.m. This is the Clarkston City Council meeting of September, and I call this meeting to order. I will start with a roll call. I will call out your names. Please say aye. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Hassan.
Aye.
Councilmember Hopkins.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
And this is Vice Mayor Iyasu. I'm also on the call. And then I will go ahead and do Pledge of Allegiance. Please, if you could say it in your hearts. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have one administrative item, which is approval of minutes from City Council meeting on August the 6th and also a special call meeting on August 21st. And I will recognize, if you have anything to add or to amend. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion.
Go ahead, sir.
I have a motion to approve minutes, council meeting, August 6, 2020, and special call meeting, August 21st, 2020.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. Seeing none, I'll call out your names. If you could say aye, nay, or abstain. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Hassan.
Aye.
Councilmember Hopkins.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
And this is Vice Mayor Iyasu. I also vote aye. And the minutes have been approved. We have a few reports. We're going to start with planning and zoning report. Ms. Cowie.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, we can. Great.
Just a little informational background. There's nothing specific to report other than the 5 projects that we have going on. And I just wanted to inform the public, since they are here, that the Planning and Economic Development Department is continuing to facilitate the challenges that we confront with our citizens as far as inspections are concerned, by doing virtual inspections in our business owners to help them with their business licensing, and to discuss the immediate issues that they may have as far as resources for trainings or webinars or, the consideration of understanding the code where we can work with them during this pandemic. We wanted them to make sure that they understand, because I've seen, information in reference to the city not having late night establishments, but we want to be mindful of those restaurants that do actually serve alcohol in the 6 hours that they must serve, at a minimum of 6 hours, with 3 hours per meal for 6 days a week, and also sending in their quarterly reports showing their 51% of the receipts for food sales. And we also want to be mindful of those and not to create noise violations that will annoy or disturb your neighbors that are surrounding you and your businesses. From that 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Again, the Planning and Economic Development Department, we are doing virtual solutions for our building and code compliances. We will continue to perform those critical functions as far as permitting and plan reviews, compliance inspections, all those virtual inspections. And, I just wanted to do a small little plug, because I was on a webinar for the census. Again, the census data is used to draw federal funds to build and improve the roads, upgrade infrastructure, deliver services, and we can apply for federal grants, and it really does benefit the community as far as planning is concerned. So if you have not done so, do the census. The deadline is September the 30th, and Mr. Vice Mayor, that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Ms. Cowie. I only have just a little concern that I think in this time, a lot of the restaurants are also hurting. So I think I'm not saying we should ignore our ordinances, especially with the noise, but I'm really concerned about enforcing strictly on the percentage because, I mean, with all people here, I think we definitely need to be considering the situation that restaurants are also facing. So I would really advise, this is not anything against our staff. I definitely respect you enforcing our ordinances, but please be considerate about the COVID crisis that the restaurants are also facing. So that's pretty much what I want to say. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you. We sure will. Yes, sir.
Any other? All right. Seeing none, I will go ahead and recognize our city manager for the city manager report, Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, and good evening. Again, Robin Gomez, Clarkston City Manager. Welcome to everyone here at this council meeting on September the 1st. Wanted to begin, all of you, the council should have received an email earlier today about our most budget to actual report and information through August the 31st. We are essentially 2/3 of the way through the year. And as you can, in the report shows, just go through this briefly, through our revenues and expenditures for our general fund to begin. So up on the screen, we have what our expenditures have been to date compared to the initial year's budget, and then our summary of our revenues by those categories through date compared to the total year's budget. We, at this point in time, as I've said almost every month that I've been here, we typically receive, again, the majority of our revenue at the end of the year. We are, again, as I've said several times, we are in some uncertainty given the virus and situation as to what our property tax collections will be. But we are, confident that we will get it, hopefully at least 2/3 is what we're planning of that revenue. And if we were to receive 2/3 also of our next two largest revenue sources, and I'll go into some detail a little bit later on, then we would be financially very good going forward. Compared to the prior year, for our expenditures, we're a little bit below where we were last year. And we are going to be at the end of the year fairly below the budget, given that we are delaying making purchases of various equipment. We're leaving at least 2 vacant positions vacant for the rest of the year. And again, just making sure that we're only spending money on what we absolutely have to spend. On the revenue side, we are about $200,000 less than at this time in the prior year. So we haven't seen a huge significant impact, and I'll go over that in a little bit more detail through this report. But again, you can see that our expenditures so far for the year, we're really close to where we should be at about 53%. And again, our revenue, sorry, I went too fast. Revenue, we're about 18% of our budgeted amount, but of course we will make adjustments to that as the year progresses. Our expenditures within the departments were all below where we should be. Again, the majority of our expenditures are mainly personnel, salaries, benefits continue to be that. We've delayed purchasing certain equipment in certain parts in certain departments, but we are mindful and continue to do that. just going through our administration, the council, our community action, which I said last month, really no changes from last month to this month. As we go through our building and grounds, again, just maintaining really the status quo, no significant expenditures. In our courts, again, no significant changes in expenditures from month to month. We did end up buying one laptop for their use that we had planned to buy for the year, but really no delays in any other purchases on the expense side. In our police, again, we've had 3 vacancies. We did fill one of those this past week. We had a new police officer begin yesterday. However, we are losing a sergeant, taking another position closer to their residents. But overall, we're just under budget, particularly in the largest expense category for salaries. And we will provide an update as to what will be reimbursed because we have spent over $200,000 on COVID-related expenditures, but we'll mention a little bit later as to how we're going to be reimbursed through the counties sharing their portion of the CARES funds with the cities. But really, no significant changes from the prior month for the police budget. To the total budget, we're at 59% of expenditures, 2/3 of the way through the year. Our public works, they're a little bit, they're full staff, and we've had really no significant changes either. We've been spending as we have and maintaining our rights of way. Really, the only increase would be in the hazard pay, so that would be in the, we're classifying that in this spreadsheet and salaries full-time. So that's why they're, and salaries part-time, because we did hire some additional staff to help with the summer maintenance. So really no significant changes. We're at 63% for public works for the year. Our parks, we haven't spent on the pool management. We just finally made the first payment just to maintain the pool closed. But that's why you see nothing spent for the management fees that we would have paid. We just spent a little under $3,000 that is for the maintenance of the pool, the chemicals, just making sure the pH is right, that the water doesn't turn green, we don't have algae growing. And that expenditure that we'll be sending out tomorrow, I believe, was about $2,700. And then we will have just a few $1,000s for August and September. And then we will go into the winter portion of our pool, where we will be spending about $250 a month just to make sure that that the pool and the pH, all of that has just the right amount of chemicals, et cetera. So unfortunately, we still have to pay, in case anybody was wondering, the electricity for the pool. That doesn't change much whether the pool is open or not. Where we see an impact, obviously, for the pool, as with the park being closed, is on the revenue side for admissions to the pool, the concessions, for the rest of Milan Park, the park pavilion rentals, as well as the women's club. But that on the revenue side. Planning and development, again, we've had one vacant position that we're not going to fill this year, but really no significant changes. That's why you see the budget under the expenditures, significantly under the budget for the year. Sorry, this isn't moving well. There we go. So that's for planning and development. No changes also on our debt service. The payments that we're making to the loans that we've had for our construction projects. We finished with the vehicles. We will be having an expenditure for the loan that we obtained, the tax anticipation note, but no significant changes to our debt service. In our capital projects, again, mostly relating to the streetscape, here's where you'll see that we are deferring certain expenditures, including a vehicle, the bucket truck, a little bit of we discussed at the Environment and Transportation Committee meeting about the structure, the home at 40 Oaks, where we have not spent anything yet. We did obtain an engineering report for that back in, I believe it was 2017, but we will be looking to 2017 or 18, but we will be looking to update that as well. So no significant changes in our capital expenditures to date. Our SPLOST fund, really, again, no changes from last month to this month. We make adjustments as we go based on the amount that we spend as the year progresses. But this schedule shows the principal payments that we're making on the money on the bonds that have been issued, the money that we borrowed. On federal seizure, we've made a couple of expenditures to buy a vehicle, but no change from the prior month for this category, as well as our city seizures that really don't have any activity. And the last couple of funds are special revenue, where we're, again, recording the grants that we've received for the streetscape. We really haven't had any, again, changes over the last month. Our stormwater fund, we show here really the salaries for Public Works for the work that they've done and part of the expense that we had for the Smith Street work, but it's not all posted here just yet. And then eventually later this year, we'll have more expenditures for the project on DeBell Street. This is where they'll be recorded once we do spend that money for that stormwater project. And then the last two are sanitation and the affordable housing fund just shows what we've spent so far. And sanitation, every month we pay the bill to Waste Management and the tipping fees for all the items that we dispose of at the county landfill. And you can see what we spent at the affordable housing for the rental assistance and for the mortgage assistance. On the revenue side, as I said a few moments ago, we are again, we received the majority of our revenues at the end of the year. These are the line item revenues, really no significant changes other than just a few of the small revenues, the alcoholic beverage, local option mix, drink tax. Those are up. There have been increases in the sales of alcohol throughout the 4 liquor stores, and then certainly the 8 restaurants that we have that have the licenses to sell the mixed drinks. So that's why you see a little bit of an increase. Some of where we haven't seen our activity as in prior years, our work permit and ID card entertainment. We budgeted $100,000. We've received $16,000. We've been closed as we've been closed, we have not been issuing those permits for those work permits and for the entertainment. And other revenues that you see, one that's significantly above is our building permit revenue. As I mentioned the last couple of months at these reports, and as Ms. Cowie mentioned, we currently have those 5 developments happening in the city, and that's why a big reason why the building permit revenue is at nearly $254,000, and that's helping to make up some of the difference in the other revenues that we didn't receive that I mentioned, like the pool admission, the pavilion rentals, women's club rentals, etc. And one other revenue I wanted to mention that we are below, which I think we have some folks that are in favor of that for our court fees. We're at 46% of what we had budgeted, but of course our court has not been open, but folks are still either paying for older citations or citations that they may have received in the last 5 months. But we are planning to reopen our court next week on September the 9th with all the measures in place to ensure distancing, cleanliness, checking people's temperatures before they can enter, and they will all the 10 people coming in at a time for their session every hour. But we'll reopen that next week and then see how that goes. But that's the only service that we are reopening back at the city at least over the next month. So we'll continue to update, obviously, as we should start receiving revenue from property taxes We occasionally start to receive it this month in September, but typically, again, the majority is October, November, and December. Just jumping quickly, I wanted to go to, we did receive yesterday our most recent SPLOST distribution, and it was fairly similar to the prior month. I think a good economic indicator. Our distribution this past month was $153,271.05. So bringing our so far for this year for the first 7 months of $970,499.39. So we're pretty close. We're about 93% of our current year's budget for the SPLOST. If you may recall, we had our lowest month being April, where we received just under 119,000. Then in May, 143,000. Last month, 157,000, and then this month, 153.3. So some positive, again, economic outlook, but so our SPLOST is doing, I think, better than, certainly a little bit better than I had anticipated. But we'll, again, continue to see where that takes us, and then just not much in the other revenues for our seizure funds for the year. Those are only when we confiscate or certain property or is forfeited to us. Wanted to go over, as I stated, we're looking to reopen our courts next Wednesday, September the 9th at 4 p.m. And we will have 3 sessions with 10, in essence, defendants or folks summoned to come to court. And they will all be obviously separated out. Everyone will have to have masks inside, and that'll be the first, in essence, activity that we are reopening here at the city, and we'll see how that, hope that should go fairly well. Really no significant, don't anticipate really any issues with that. All the folks that have been required to come to court have been notified, and again, we will start that next Wednesday, September the 9th. We are still, our city offices will still remain closed, although the indicators for virus, the infection rate, the hospitalization rate, they're increasing, but they're increasing at much lower levels than they were certainly throughout June and July, and even into August. So we started to see some improvement, if we can call that the increases are growing at slower rates, improvements. That is improving. The death rate, I think, has somewhat stabilized, but there is a little bit of a lag. But we're still, the governor yesterday extended the public health emergency, I believe, through October 10th. So we will continue to remain closed this at least through the end of September. I know there were requests to look to reopen at least parts of Milan Park, but I still strongly feel that we're one more month, and as the numbers continue to improve and the number of infections don't grow as quickly and get as close to zero, then we will certainly look to reopen back the parks and certainly our offices with all the new protective measures in place, as we have been doing for those that have been coming in. But for the moment, our staff will continue to work remotely as we have been. An update on the construction. Our streetscape contractor was out last week, this week, working on finishing brickwork, particularly along North Indian Creek at East Ponds, doing curbing, some sidewalk work also along East Ponds and on Market, finishing the monument signs on Market Street. So these final details should be completed actually over the next couple of weeks. And once those are completed, then we will have the final paving and striping of East Ponds from 285 to Market Street, and then Market Street from East Ponds to North Indian Creek. And hopefully that'll be in the early part of October, if not by the end of September. So that will be the majority of the work will be completed, and we will then really the final parts of the streetscape would be for Georgia Power to come in and remove and relocate some of the overhead power lines along Market Street that will be underground. And that really will sort of bring all of that to conclusion, at least for the streetscape. And then, of course, after then the landscaping that still needs to be installed along that entire area that I mentioned. So we're nearing the end where I can see it. We're within about 45, 60 days to being completed, and it's been a long time coming. So we do appreciate everyone's attention and certainly their patience with all of this construction that's been happening. I wanted, just as a reminder to everyone, in terms of our trash collection, we still have a contract and agreement with Waste Management. They perform the green container, the 96-gallon container collection every Monday. So we do, encourage, and hopefully everybody's putting out their can no earlier than Sunday evening, preferably by sunset on Sunday for Monday's collection. I would like to remind everyone it is, even just for everyone's safety, that they do try to keep as much trash in they can. Understand that there are households that do generate more and they have to put it to the side. If you do need to put the trash, just a reminder to please make sure that the bags are safely secured or closed. For some reason, driving around the last couple of days and yesterday, Waste Management for some reason missed a couple of areas. It seems like they skipped certain homes and a few townhomes, which was kind of odd. But anyway, as we went out to check, it was a little odd that there were, just loose trash. So please, the better we can do it, then the cleaner the city will be. We are also reviewing we did issue a request for proposals for the curbside recycling for residential and small commercial recycling. And we are reviewing those. We had 2 replies, and we are hoping that we will have a contract before the council to approve, likely at our November council meeting, possibly as early as the October council meeting, depending on what we can resolve. But that is something that we are looking to bring back, and it appears, very, very reasonably that we can do it at close to what the city's expense was before. So not we're proposing any increases in any rates, but the fear was that the rates would come back so high that we may have had to increase it for next year, but it does not look like we're going to have to. And as I've shared with the council also, we are working on preparing our budget for fiscal 2021. So certainly for the council, please, as I've mentioned in my update every week, please advise of any items that you'd like to review, to add, to further discuss, and we will certainly do that for our fiscal 2021 budget. And the last item I just wanted to cover, Ms. Cowie mentioned briefly about, and the Vice Mayor, about about our restaurants. And yes, we do encourage everyone to visit and continue to support certainly all of our Clarkston businesses. But we have unfortunately, there are at least 2 restaurants that give a lot of evidence, a lot of just information and observations that they are operating, and they would like to operate more as a lounge or as a bar. And currently, lounges, bars, nightclubs are not allowed in our city. I've advised both of those business owners that they can come to the city, come to these meetings, or just approach council members to determine if there's an interest in changing that in Clarkston, allowing bars and nightclubs. There may be some residents who will be speaking, if not at this meeting, next month or in subsequent meetings regarding some concerns with businesses. I have had discussions with both in terms of that they do need to comply with our ordinances, some of which Ms. Cowie stated regarding the serving of food, certainly noise. From my perspective, keeping your business area clean, litter-free. So we are reviewing that. We did receive some reports finally from at least one of them. We are still reaching out to get the data, really the required reports from other our other restaurants, specifically those that do serve alcohol that has a license, and they do need to send us those. We did not do much of the enforcement. Well, certainly most of those were closed, like many other businesses in April and May, and then they started to reopen in June. Certainly they're all running now in July and August, and based on some of the reports that we've received, their sales were fairly good based on what they've reported to us. But we all still need to ensure that, yes, we want our businesses to be successful, but they also need to be aware that they need to comply with our ordinances, and we will continue to make sure that they do, and we'll make every effort to do that. So I'm sure we will hear from some folks, and I know at least one or two have already reached out to the council and to myself, and we will continue to pursue that and make sure that, again, everyone is successful here, both businesses, residents, et cetera. Mr. Vice Mayor, that concludes my report. Just a big thank you to the city staff and to the council for their continued support, and certainly to all our residents who have been very understanding, very patient through everything that's going on for Clarkston. For a small city, there sure is a lot going on. So again, just thank you to city staff and to everyone on the council.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. I just want to repeat the same thing again, Mr. Gomez. I do understand the noise question is absolutely important that we make sure that it's enforced, but I really am not sure. I mean, I definitely want them to report, but I think enforcing the percentage 49, 51% at this point, I think to the T is really, I'm really concerned is going to be a more hardship to the businesses. So I definitely would also encourage you to consider that we have a crisis. I mean, people might be drinking more alcohol. I don't know, but the point is, I'm trying to make is, I think we need to be considerate of the situation, and you already know. So I don't really have to remind you, but I just want to make sure I say that. And another thing is, on July council meeting, the council had directed Mr. Gomez to do a study for well digging, and I just want to ask you, I do understand that we have had a lot of issues that we gave you more work, but I'm expecting that hopefully you will give us that report by at the October council meeting. That's all I have. But if there are any questions from the council, please go ahead and ask our city manager. Thank you.
This is Deborah Johnson. I had one quick question. Mr. Gomez, you stated that there would be 10 people in the court settings on Wednesday. Does that include staff or just 10 people coming for court? And then
no, then plus the staff, we will have the judge, the court manager, supervisor, one of their staff, and one bailiff, plus the prosecutor and the public defender. So likely, not likely, but everybody will be spaced out, and there will be no more than 2 people sitting. Everything will be laid out as to where people will stand, people will sit, and that will be both the courtroom and the lobby. And then depending on how the process, how it progresses inside the courtroom, as folks start arriving for the next session, there will be spaced again between the lobby and even outdoors, unless of course it's raining or too windy or et cetera. But yeah, all of that will be spaced out. So at no time will there be more than 15 people in that between the courtroom, the hallway outside, and certainly the lobby. And we've removed the furniture in the lobby to again allow for more space for people to be spaced out.
are there going to be any temperature checks?
Yeah, nobody can go into the building without having their temperature, and obviously if their temperature is above 100.3, the temperature checker will the actual device notifies you of that, but then they will not be allowed. There will be signage outside, obviously, that if somebody is not feeling well, they will not be allowed in, obviously, and everybody will have to have a mask. There will be, staff will be wearing gloves. There'll be plenty of hand sanitizer available. All the measures, all the protective equipment and processes will be in place.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question about that as well. If someone does come to court and they have a temperature, is there somebody to reschedule it right there to document that they did show up for it? And
yeah, we will reschedule. We will reach out with them. They will likely get a date the following month, no earlier than the following month. But yes, they will be rescheduled.
Okay. I also had a question. You mentioned that we were losing a police lieutenant. Who is that?
A sergeant.
Sergeant. I'm sorry. Who's leaving?
Sergeant Sparks.
Okay.
He's accepting a job closer to where he lives. He lives in and around Ackworth, so we've been notified that he accepted a job much closer to where he currently lives.
That makes sense. Also, you said that we're one person down in planning and development, and that's not being filled. What position is that?
It's an engineer position that we had discussed bringing some of those activities in-house.
Okay. I also would like to make a request. You said that you would be getting an engineer for the home, or to evaluate the home in 40 Oaks. And I'd just like to make a request that be someone who is skilled at historic preservation specifically, as just a structural engineer, because I think it would be dramatically different, especially the costs of restoration.
Yes, I took that as the directive at the committee meeting when that was brought up.
And is there any word on getting the lights shut off in 40 Oaks?
I'm reaching out again now that you mentioned Georgia Powers, I have not heard back.
Okay. Because, I mean, is DeKalb County happy to be paying for this if we don't want the lights on, or are we paying for it?
As I said at the committee meeting, the county, from what I was told, about 15 parks had lighting added, security lighting. That lighting is on all night. To them, it's a security issue, and as I stated, there's the one park near where I live, not Stoneview, I really shouldn't remember the name of the park, but it's down off North Decatur Road, just east of 285, and it's a dramatic improvement by having those lights on, but that's my perspective, and really a lot of law enforcement is to have parks that are lit. That way it tends to keep people away from there. You know that you can be seen. You're not going to plan on doing nefarious activity normally, but as I stated, we will make sure that they are turned off. Oh, it's Brookside Park down off North Decatur. Before they put the lights on, that park was a mess, and now that the lights are on, it's drastically improved. I drive by there every day.
But this is a nature preserve, so the nocturnal animals will just leave if the lighting is not
understood. Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, they'll find a place to go though. But I understand. Yeah, I'll follow up with Georgia Power.
Thank you. That's all.
Any other questions to our city manager? All right. If there is none, we're going to go to our city attorney's report. Mr. Quinn, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I guess what I have, my report is that sorry, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks. The DeKalb County Board of Commissioners approved the IGA for CARES funds. They approved an IGA that was substantially similar to what the City Council approved. And then today we received the signature document, which the city officials have already signed. So within a matter of a week, or hopefully less, we should be receiving the CARES money.
Yay.
Yeah,
That's
Mr.
all I've
Vice
got.
Mayor. Sorry, Mr. Vice Mayor and Council, this is Robin, just to interject. And as the city attorney stated, yeah, we've already inquired to set up a bank account. We're hoping to have that this week, if not obviously right after Labor Day. And we'll inquire. I'm going to deliver the documents tomorrow to the county or the deputy county attorney, and I'll inquire as to how quickly that will take place, and then I'll update the council. But yeah, I mean, realistically, by this time next week, hopefully at the latest or by next Wednesday, we will have that money in our bank account. And just to refresh, the city's CARES Act portion per the agreement and how the money is to be distributed, our allocation is $1,433,288 that we must, again, separately keep in a separate bank account, and obviously separately account for every penny that is spent, and it can only be spent for COVID-19 related expenditures that are very, they're enumerated and somewhat detailed in the federal guideline when the act was approved, and then those guidelines were updated on June 30th of this year, but they're the Coronavirus Relief Fund guidance for state, territorial, local, and tribal governments. And so that gives you, it's about a 4-page document that I've shared with the council before in my weekly update, and I will include again in my update on Friday, that we must follow the guidelines that are listed on there, and we certainly will do that. And I expect also, because the funds are more than $750,000, we will be subject to a federal single audit requirement. So that fund itself will be separately audited by our external auditors next year. And I am certain that the county will likely audit the funds as well. And as I've said before, I certainly welcome any and all audits. I'm for them. I'm a big fan of them, probably because I used to be a city auditor. So I'm more than happy to provide all that, and we'll make sure that we do comply with all of that. But I'll keep the council updated as soon as we receive those funds. Sorry to cut in, Stephen.
That's all right. Thank you. Did you want to add anything else, Mr. Quinn?
No, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions to Mr. Quinn from the council?
Yeah, this is Councilman Carroll. I have a question. So is it still true that we would have to spend the funds by December 1st for the CARES Act?
Good question. The answer is no. We got that date changed to December 20th, and the operative term is incurred. So in the case of a good or service, if we receive that good or service by December 20th, then we can pay for it beyond that date into next year.
Like, let's say we get an invoice for a service that's completed by December 19th, but we could pay it in February or January or some later date, but still using those funds. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. And then the way the IGA is set up, it's like on December 20th, we're supposed to return the balance of any unused funds to DeKalb County, I believe.
That's correct.
Stephen,
All right.
I had another question, if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
So my other question is, like, let's suppose the council allocated money for mortgage relief and put that money in a fund to be used for mortgage relief, but then it wasn't all expended by December 20th. Would we have to return those funds, or would that count as expending it if you put it in a fund, say for mortgage relief that hasn't been given to individual homeowners by December 20th?
Well, I'll give you my thought on that. In some ways, that's maybe more of a finance question, but my thought is that no, that would not work. That you haven't truly incurred the expense because you have not either sent the money out or received a good or received a service.
So in that case, we'd have to return it to the DeKalb County if we hadn't gotten a good or service for that money by December 20th.
Yeah,
Correct.
Thanks. That's all I had.
Thanks, sir. Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, we're going to go to council remarks. I will start with Councilmember Carroll.
No remarks.
All right. Councilmember Hassan.
No remarks.
Councilmember Hopkins.
I would just like to address the issue. We created the Standing Advisory Committee meeting for equity and inclusion a month back, and it's not started yet. I would just like to say that I do intend, Councilmember Johnson has volunteered to co-chair that, and if anyone else would like to be on that committee, let me know, and we can take care of that at the next meeting. But I would also like to advertise it a bit around Clarkston so we can get a diversity of people to apply to be on that committee as well. We have received one application, but I don't want to make any decisions. Well, I can't until I have a co-chair. And when I have a co-chair, we can start appointing people, but also I do want to advertise it a bit to let people know and to give them an idea what it's going to be about so they can go into it with a clear idea. But it is coming, and you will be seeing things about it around Clarkston. That's all.
Thank you, Councilmember Hopkins. Councilmember Johnson.
Hello, I just would like to start by saying I had the pleasure of attending the Downtown Authority training on Thursday, August the 27th. Yay! I completed it via Zoom, and with the Carl Vincent Institute, I have continued to distribute 27 boxes of food every Tuesday and Friday in the community. And I've also I've been speaking to residents about trash collection. So thank you, Mr. Gomez, for the update on that. I have several people calling, emailing, texting about when we will get some recycling back in the city. So your update was very helpful. And I wanted to just piggyback on what Councilwoman Hopkins stated. We have several committees that we are chairing or co-chairing that have not met, and the year is almost over. Plus, there's documentation with our city clerk with inaccurate information as to who's on these committees. So if we can update the rosters for each of these committees, that would be great, and at least reach out to those members and work on potentially meeting in reference to these committees. That would be super great. I'm not trying to be pessimistic about processes and things like that, but I am on some committees that we have not met. So I just wanted to share that. And as well, we did lose a council member, Ms. YT Bell, and she was on some committees that need some people to step in and chair. She was the chair of one committee that I am aware of. So that's all I have, but thank you guys.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. For Mayor's report, I just want to first follow up with the committees. I had the discussion with Councilmember Johnson as well on this, and she will be the chair of the community development, and I will be the co-chair. I also think we need to fill out the vacancy on the DDA, Downtown Development Authority, and hopefully we will do that on our next council meeting. And I want to report for August that Well, I had a few things. On August 13th, I attended a Zoom meeting that was focused on children and COVID from age 0 to 5. This was very educational. It was spearheaded by the Early Learning Task Force and the Preventative Resource Center, and also Clarkston Development Foundation. On August 19th, we had our environmental committee meeting. I want to thank Councilmember Hopkins. We have had a very long meeting and very productive one. I also on August 20th, we had the educational, Early Learning Task Force meeting. On August 21st, I had a meeting with a resident and also Mr. Kaiser and also Mr. Gomez on a question on the stormwater project at the Bell. And also on August 28th, I had a similar meeting with the resident and also Mr. Kaiser and also Mr. Gomez. This was regarding some drainage concerns on her sidewalks and on the sidewalk that's adjacent to her property. And both meetings were productive and both residents were happy about the meetings. I also finally want to report that I just signed the agreement, the updated IG agreement with DeKalb County. So as the city manager and our city attorney reported, and that is ready to go tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get the money pretty soon. That's all I have to report, I'm closing the reports time section, and now we go to public comments. I just want to read out our policy. Any member of the public may address the council during the time allotted for public comments. Each attendee will be allowed 3 minutes for comments at the discretion of the presiding officer. The public comment period will be limited to 40 minutes, and it will not be a time for dialogue. If your public comment contains a series of questions, please submit those to the city clerk in writing. This will facilitate follow-up by the council or staff. The city council desires to allow an opportunity for public comment. However, the business of the city must proceed in an orderly and timely manner. And now, if you have any comments, please raise your hands or type on the chat box, and we will recognize you.
We have a Michael Marcuse. Michael Marcuse, please proceed. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. What I wanted to do is kind of touch on some of the things that were said earlier. And I think you are all aware of my problems with the Ponds Sports Lounge. And I wanted to touch on the comment of that restaurants are hurting, and I'm very much aware of that. Now, I want to point out they're not the only ones hurting. I've been out of a job since the end of January, and my wife has cancer. And I'm not trying to get any pity from anybody on this, but the fact that, you know, say I awakened in the middle of the night and then say the next day, say I have an interview, it's not good. And if, you know, my wife being sick, she needs her sleep too. So all I'm saying is that you can't just look at the hurt of the restaurants, you have to also look at the hurt of the residents. There needs to be a balance. Now, I'm sensitive to what's going on, and but at the same time, the issues with the Ponds Sports Lounge have been going on for well over a year. They haven't been a restaurant or complied with the ordinances for, you know, from way before the current pandemic. So there needs to be kind of a balance and the consideration of the fact that this has been an ongoing situation for a long time. Now, having said that, also going forward, I think we need to look at how to avoid a repeat of these things. And I'm perfectly happy to work with the city. I have some ideas that I think would let businesses prosper, but also protect the residents. I'll be happy to submit those by email later, or just, if you want to talk to me, again, I'm happy to work with the city on this.
Thank you, sir. I just want to say I hope your wife gets better. I just want to also mention that I actually definitely agree with you in terms of noise, that the businesses definitely have to be considerate of our residents, and so I definitely feel, I think it's going to be very important that that the business owner hopefully knows and understands this and will correct that. But what I was trying to say with the percentage is it's a report that all businesses do, and all restaurants in Clarkston, they have to abide by our ordinance that says 51% has to be food, 49% maximum has to be alcohol, and they have been as far as I'm concerned, I think all of them have been complying with that, and until we had COVID, and then they were shut down for a couple of months, and now they are also opening up. That's the only thing I was trying to say. Since there is COVID crisis going on, that we need to be considerate of that when it comes to the percentage, because the percentage at the end of the day, they can just lie and cook it, but I'm not encouraging for that. All I'm trying to say is we cannot really solve it with just an ordinance enforcing strictly only. Again, we definitely look forward in talking to you and resolving this matter. Any other comments?
We have two hands up. Warren Hadlock, 3 minutes.
Hello. Yes. Yeah, I just want to say how much I sympathize with Mr. Marcuse. When I was on the council, that's why we restricted hours. We set them to more reasonable closing times because we were having problems exactly like his. This is a small town, and that, there's no business that's far enough away from dwellings, apartments, or houses, that they can't disrupt somebody's sleep the way these people have apparently been doing. I wanted to urge also the staff to reach out to homeowners with a used snail mail, and send every single family house in the city a letter letting them know that if they are the mortgage agreement signee, that they are possibly eligible for COVID relief money. We have people groups going around to apartment complexes who are letting apartment dwellers know that, and who are helping them fill out the applications. And we have nothing like that for homeowners. So I urge the city staff to be fair and to do due diligence in making sure homeowners are aware of the availability of funds for help with mortgage or hopefully utilities. I am very concerned also about our wildlife, and I wanted just to touch on what Laura Hopkins was saying about the light in 40 Oaks. I know that animals will eventually find someplace else to go, as Mr. Gomez said. But unfortunately, it may be on Highway 78 or on 285. And there are an awful lot of people in this town, and a lot of our city council members who are very concerned about the environment, and who are very sensitive to the needs of wildlife in our town. And so I think that that is one of the things that we can do to be of help. We're eliminating so much of their habitat with these massive building projects that are going on now. We don't need to make it any harder on them.
You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, I know, and I've got so much to touch on, but I'm just concerned also we're not taking care of our investment in Friendship Forest, a $1.9 million investment, and it's summertime, and that's when we really need to have Public Works in there. I know Robin and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but we I'm afraid Public Works, by the time they get in, they're going to cut the spice bushes and the pawpaws that are engulfed in the weeds now, and we're seeing a resurgence of hundreds of privet hedge bushes that need to be kept down by mower at least, so that we can protect that investment. And also wanted to know more about the status of the well that we had asked about. Thank you.
So,
We have Mr. Sean Lindsay. Sean Lindsay, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Oh, I think I only need about 15 seconds. I was just gonna, so this is Sean Lindsay, one of the physicians at Ethne Health. And just, just for your consideration, we are continuing to test. There are a couple locations in Clarkston that are testing for COVID. I can just say that COVID, although the numbers nationally and statewide are going down, the numbers in Clarkston are going up. We tested 138 people last week, 93 of which were positive. So that's a 67.4% positive rate. The previous weeks were 25% and 44%. So just a reminder for the council's consideration and for public consideration just to wear masks, and just appreciate all that the city is doing and the initiatives that are doing to go out and just help prevent the spread of COVID. Thanks.
thank you, Dr. Lindsay, and thank you for all that you guys do.
We have Jim Wegayehu. Jim Wegayehu, 3 minutes. Please proceed.
Thank you. My name is Tesfa Miriam Mugayu, 3924 East Ponce de Leon, Clarkston, Georgia. I'm a general manager at Ponce. And thank you, Mr. Gomez, taking time to come out there and addressing the issues, especially the sound and the cleaning. And for the resident, if he's here or not, I'm not sure. Mr. Michael, I just want to tell him personally, we are working on his complaint, but the only thing that we cannot determine is because for last time this is the second time when we get these issues, and last time our officer went in his house and checked the noise, and they told us to minus it, and we minused them for them, and we locked it. But I don't know what happened after that. I don't get no complaint after that. But right now, if we have issues, this is a serious matter, and if you want to go ahead and even if you want to come and tell me, and you can call me, and I'll minus it for him anytime. So I need the help from him to just make sure he's not gonna be annoyed at home. So thank you. That's the only thing I want to address. I appreciate you.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Dean, I think Dean Moore. Dean Moore, 3 minutes, please.
Thank you very much. Yes, the businesses of Clarkston go through an evolution, and like a paint store could open up, and maybe he's not doing so well. So maybe he'll set up some booths so people can get on the internet while they're waiting for their paint. Eventually that internet cafe sort of business may not be making enough money for him. He may put a bakery in the back. And this is just an example of how these businesses in Clarkston change. So in the food business, we've got a requirement. We reduced it to 51% food and 49% alcohol a few years ago. And it's still really hard to meet that requirement, apparently. People would rather go drinking than to go eating in Clarkston. And so if we do decide to remove regulations and just allow drinking, I think we should extend that option to all businesses to sell alcohol. I know when I go to see my lawyer, it'd be great if I could sit down and have a shot of whiskey. It might make me feel more relaxed and more open. Or if I'm going to the doctor, I should be able to buy a beer or a shot of whiskey, and you know, maybe that would help me with my health as well. At this point, I don't drink at all, so it's been 16 years since I've had a drink. But I just think that it should be spread throughout the city. You could go from one business to the next and have a drink, and by the time you get to the other side of town, you could like bounce back to the other side. And you know, I think it'd be great that way. Thank you for listening.
Don't see any others, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. I'm going to close public comment section, and we don't have any old business. We have a few agenda items. We're going to start with G1, which is approval.
Vice Mayor Iyasu, may I make a motion to amend the agenda before we go to the specific
Absolutely,
questions?
sir. Absolutely. Go ahead, sir.
Since G2 and G3 are both relating to housing relief, I would just move that we combine those two items so we can discuss them together.
I don't. Do we need to vote on this, sir? He doesn't want. He want to take it out. Mr. Quinn.
Hi. So yeah, if we want to amend the agenda, then we would need to take a vote to do that. I don't really have an opinion as to whether we should amend the agenda.
Well, all right, that's fine. He has got a motion. I second him, and so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the council? All right. Seeing none, I'm going to call out your names. If you could say aye, nay, or abstain. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Hassan. Councilmember Hassan. Councilmember Hopkins.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
And this is Vice Mayor Iyasu. I also vote aye. So this agenda item has been combined with G3. G2 has been combined to G3. Thank you, sir. So we're going to start with G1, which is approved resolution to declare a vacancy in the office of the council member and call a special call election to fill the unexpired term. So according to our city charter, the mayor or the vice mayor has to announce a vacancy if it exists. And based on that, that's what exactly we're doing today. I want to recognize our city manager just to fill in more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Yes, as you stated, this item is for the council to approve the resolution to declare that we have a vacancy with a council seat. As was stated earlier, former council member Y.T. Bell qualified to run for Clarkston mayor, therefore she vacated her seat, and a vacancy exists. And under the city's charter, it is for the council for the vice mayor in this case to declare a vacancy, and then for a vote of the full council to declare that vacancy and to fill that vacancy with a special election. Under Georgia code at this time, that election to fill that seat would occur in March of 2021. That seat at that election, the winner would then fill that seat until the end of 2021. So to fill that unexpired term through December 31st of 2021. And it would also authorize the city clerk to set a qualifying period for that March 2021 election. And I don't know, Tracy, what that time period would be, but I'm going to infer it would likely be either December or January. But I think Tracy can and will obviously provide that qualifying period date well in advance.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from the council? We discussed it thoroughly at the work session. All right, seeing none, I will make the motion. I move to approve a resolution to declare a vacancy in the office of the council member and to call a special election to fill in the unexpired term.
I
We have a
second.
second. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right. Seeing none, I will call out your names. If you could say aye, nay, or abstain. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Hassan.
Aye.
Councilmember Hopkins.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
And this is Vice Mayor Yasu. I also vote aye, so this motion carries. Our next agenda item is going to be G3, since we combined those two agenda items. It's going to be housing relief to the unemployed residents, both rent and mortgage relief by partnering with nonprofit organizations and intergovernmental cooperation. And as you are aware, the City Council has been supporting with rent assistance and also mortgage assistance, and we already have spent about $150,000 from our affordable housing funding, and also we have allocated $25,000 also likewise for mortgage assistance. And we believe that this program is very vital for our both our renters and also homeowners, and I strongly feel that we need to continue supporting these programs, particularly the rent assistance program definitely need to continue. The only thing is I'm not exactly sure if we can go ahead and appropriate the money, even though it's not in our account. So I want to hear what Mr. Quinn would advise us. What should we do, Mr. Quinn? Should we wait until we get the money, or we can allocate right now?
Well, the money is, at this point, I think we can feel confident that the money is on the way.
Okay.
And so I think it's just, you know, when we approved the IGA at the special meeting a couple weeks ago, there was an exhibit attached that Mr. Gomez created that did, you know, describe our intended spendings. And then it had a substantial, you know, many of those have already been incurred. Then it had certain budget amounts for these very programs and a catch-all category that basically said for the rest of the money we'll spend from the categories above as needed. So you could make your decision tonight. You could make your decision, change it later. You could wait to make your decision. What we've told DeKalb County through our IGA is that within 30 days of executing the document, which happened today on our end, we would provide them with our spending plan. So we don't have to act immediately, but we certainly can do so.
Okay, thank you so much. And so if there are any questions or comments, I will get it from the council now. I'll answer them.
So I guess my comment would be is that this, Councilman Carroll, I think it would make sense to go ahead and allocate the $25,000 that we have in the fund, and that can always be reimbursed when we get the cab money. But we can spend the $25,000 now, and that we go ahead and allocate the additional $350,000 that was in the proposed IGA, and that $350,000 could be used for either mortgage relief or rental relief, depending how the applications come in between now and December 20th.
This is Deborah. I have a quick question. Mr. Gomez, do we have applicants that are applications that are waiting right now?
For the rental assistance, yes. I currently, we've as of right now, we have 32 that have been approved at for just under $20,000, 19,826 to be precise. And then between Sunday, yesterday, and today, I have another 17 that appear to be complete and ready to be approved. I just like to review them a second time. But yes, they've been steady this entire time, and now we're having quite a few folks who received 1 month's assistance a month to 6 weeks ago and are now requesting the second, in some instances even the third month, because we provide the assistance for up to 3 months. Some took all 3 right away. Those that were behind on their rent, the majority, month to month, they're able to make some payment. So my expectation is that this will likely continue, even though we've made it known that there are about another 25 agencies in the county that are also offering some type of rent and mortgage as well as utility assistance.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez.
Okay. And does anyone have the number that we designated for rental assistance? Was it 350? I thought it was 400K.
Well, the total amount that we put, again, just as an estimate for the entire year for rental and housing is $450,000.
Okay.
450.
Say that again, Awet. I didn't hear you.
Did you say 450, Mr. Gomez? 450?
Yes, 450. But again, we can, and that is really an estimate, and that can be changed. I mean, it can go up, it can go down. That's the total amount, just as an estimate, that we would expend between when this program began back in June all the way through December the 20th.
Okay, I got you. I was thinking it's 350. My bad, I was wrong about that. All right, so I think instead of using the last $25,000, Mr. Carroll, I would really recommend that we can still use our general funds for just about a week or so and just reimburse it from the CARES Act and calculate whatever we spend from now on. Is that doable, Mr. Gomez? Do you think we could go ahead and...
Yeah, Mr. Vice Mayor and Council, really the easiest, I mean, we can do it that way. Really the easiest is for us just to use the affordable housing, what we have, at least for the amount that I just mentioned, the just under 20,000. And then as soon as we receive the CARES Act money, that will reimburse the affordable housing fund, everything that was spent. So that fund will remain at $200,000 because, again, the CARES Act money can be used for this purpose. So that would be my suggestion for now. And beginning next week, as soon as the money's in our bank account, then we just utilize that fund for all future COVID-related expenses.
My only concern is if we use all the money, that we're going to have to shut down that bank account.
Well, we wouldn't be using
all of it.
Or you know what? I think maybe, I don't know how that works. So as soon as we allocate it, we do not take it out of the bank account, right? So that way, I think we're still going to have some money left because we haven't finished the mortgage assistance, right?
Right.
Okay, that's perfect. I had it wrong then. All right. In that case, are there any other questions before I make
Yes.
a motion?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Gomez, what's the actual amount left over from the money?
In the Affordable Housing Trust Fund?
No. The the trust fund.
Yeah, the Housing Trust Fund.
Yes.
We've spent to date just under 150,000.
And how much the balance that we have in the bank?
50,000, just over 50,000.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't want I don't want the funds to be commingled. So I would said we take from the general fund. That's not right. While we're getting this next week, why we don't use it that $50,000 to make sure the bank doesn't close leave some of it and continue the dispersing to the needy people. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do, Mr.
Okay, so I would have a motion if it's okay.
Okay.
Well,
I move that we go ahead and allocate 25,000 of the 50,000 remaining in the account for rental relief over the next week, and that we go ahead and allocate $350,000 of the CARES funds for both rental and mortgage relief if needed between now and December 20th, so that those funds could be applied to either rental relief applications or mortgage relief applications that come in the next 3.5 months.
I have a question.
They should stay separate.
Hello?
Hold on. Just Councilmember Carol, I just don't mean to be, but I really have not asked for a motion. So, but you go ahead.
It doesn't matter if you ask for one. I can make one, and if it loses, we can do another one.
Okay, that's fine. Motion. Do we have a second? All right. I'm really
Why do you want the funds to be set? I guess just for discussion purposes, why do we want the funds to be separate? Why does that matter?
This is Deborah. Because right now the rental assistance is consuming every dollar we designate to it. And in the event that we have people that come and say, I need my mortgage paid, we don't have the funds because they've been exhausted with rental assistance. So we would like to keep those separate just in case, because it takes a little longer for your mortgage to default than your rent. So if we could just keep, if it's only the 25,000, but we don't want.
I'm fine with keeping the 25,000 separate. I'm not changing that.
Right.
The 25,000 stays with the mortgage. I'm not trying to change that.
Okay, let's just keep these as separate entities. So if the need comes up, it's available. That's what I would
Thank
say.
you, since we did not get a second, I will move that we appropriate $225,000 for rental assistance and $25,000 for mortgage assistance from the CARES Act funding, plus $25,000 from our affordable housing that would go for rental assistance.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we not want to leave any money for like utilities or any other, the job program I don't think was in the original budget?
Yeah, we
Councilmember Hopkins, this is not, well, it's already, so we have $450,000 that we are addressing at this meeting, but the other money is still going to be there out of $1.4 million. There is going to be money for other projects as well. So, but right now, at this agenda item, we are trying to allocate $450,000 that will go towards rental and mortgage assistance. So at the end, what's going to happen is $50,000 will go towards mortgage assistance, and $400,000 will go to rental assistance. So this is pretty fair. So far, we already spent $150,000 of our affordable housing for rental assistance, and we have allocated $25,000 for mortgage assistance. So that's a total of 175. Hold on, 175. So we're gonna add another $25,000 that will go for rental assistance from our affordable housing, plus that's going to be for rental assistance, plus $225,000 that will go for rental assistance until the end of the year, plus $25,000 more for mortgage assistance that will come from the CARES Act funding. Total of $450,000.
Awad, this is Hassan.
Yes.
Could you be clear with your numbers? The $150,000 that we already spent,
Yes.
is it reimbursable from that money or is it different? Is it included
Yes,
or not?
that's why. Okay, I'm going to reiterate my motion one more time. So I move that we allocate $225,000 for rental assistance and $25,000 for mortgage assistance from the CARES Act funding, plus $25,000 from our affordable housing fund. So the total is going to be $275,000 plus whatever we have spent, $175,000. The total is going to come to $450,000.
So whatever we spend, it will be reimbursed back to the trust fund, and the balance will be spent, right?
Yes, the balance is going to be back to $200,000.
Okay. Do you make a motion?
Right. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have a question for Mr. Gomez. That is what was in your original sort of prescribed budget for the CARES Fund. In that budget, you had used pretty close to the full amount of what we were anticipating receiving, correct?
Not originally, but in the second one, the one that I reported to you in my weekly update, was that we included the last item on that list, on that budget, a contingency to be spent on any of the categories as needed, and that is $399,288. So, Mr. Quinn suggested that we include in what we're going to spend the entire 1.433288, the entire amount. So what we originally had was, in essence, short by nearly $400,000. So that last $400,000 is what's listed as contingency to be used on any category. The rent, as I said earlier, the rental and mortgage housing assistance, that amount was listed at $450,000. We had the actual at a couple of weeks ago when this was created, or last week, we had spent $118,698.90 on the rental assistance. So now that's just under $150,000 if we include the one mortgage payment. So that's what's been spent to date. But the total budget for housing and rental, again, to reiterate, was listed at $450,000. Then there's another line item for workforce development at $100,000, another line item for utility payment assistance at $100,000, and then the final item is $399,288, which is just to be, as I stated already, contingency to be spent on any of those categories.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomez.
All right, so call out the votes. All right, so we have a motion and a second, and I'll call out your name. If you can say aye, nay, or abstain, Councilman Patel.
Aye.
Councilmember Hassan,
Aye.
Hopkins,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
This is Vice Mayor Yasu. I also vote aye, so this motion carries unanimously. We're going to go to the next agenda item, which is G4, workforce development for the unemployed. And this is also being introduced by me and Councilmember Johnson. And this idea is pretty self-explanatory. The idea is to help those people who lost their jobs because of COVID-19, and also those businesses who lost income or who lost their business because of COVID-19. The idea is to help them, or to retool, or to get trained for jobs that hopefully will not be impacted by COVID, and also that jobs that hopefully will be able to provide for their families. So far, we already have, as the city manager mentioned, we have already, me and Councilmember Johnson, we proposed that we use $100,000 of the CARES Act funding that will go towards this project. In our previous, at the work session, we had a gentleman from Friends of Refuge, and he did mention that they are also working on similar workforce development projects, and they would be willing to discuss with us if we could also, if they could help us with that. So I believe that Friends of Refuge will definitely be instrumental in helping, and the city manager have made the connection with Mr. Brian Bollinger, and hopefully we will hear on more of this, how we're gonna, whether we need to advertise it or something. I think we will discuss this, but right now we're gonna this is just a discussion, and also to approve that we're gonna spend $100,000 for workforce development. I will answer any questions from the council. You, Johnson, I'm sorry.
I can barely hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You want to add in that agenda?
No, you did very well. I just had one question for Robin or Stephen. I know we did discuss the December 20th date, and if we had goods or services that were designated but not fulfilled by December 20th, that we would be fine. But if we offered somebody like a grant to the technical college, would that qualify as being acceptable? If we gave somebody a $3,000 grant to attend Georgia State Technical School for a 6-month program.
This is Stephen. If your question is about the timing and the money goes out before December 20th, I don't think that's a timing problem.
Okay.
Now, I have never dug in detail, maybe Mr. Gomez has, about whether what you just described would be an allowed use of CARES funds. You know, I'm not sure how that would fit the criteria of an expense that is in response to either COVID, the illness, or, I mean, it's in response to the economic situation, so there's an argument to be made. I just don't want to say that I can't say with confidence that that's an allowed expenditure. Maybe Robin has seen some guidance on that.
Yeah, it's a little, yeah, we'll look through the details a little bit more, but it does allow for certain education expenses, but it appears that specifically listed in the guidelines are for expenses relating to whether economic, well, what does it say? Specifically to provide like distance learning, to facilitate, including technological improvements with schools being closed in order to comply with COVID-19. Telework capabilities for public employees. So we'd have to look a little bit more specifically, but it looks like it's just a little uncertain right now whether that is covered or would not be. But we will review and make that determination.
Okay.
Johnson, that's definitely a good question, and it can be done in a way. If somebody had lost a job and COVID, or lost his income because of COVID, and we can advertise this program. It could be any educational or workforce development organization that could help us with this. So the thing is, if we can actually find somebody from Primitive College or Piedmont Tech College that if they have a program that can train somebody to get a job and that can train him within 3 months, I think that's doable. So, but the only thing is the timing has to be done within the next 3 months, and it cannot be something that is not because of COVID. I mean, that person must have lost a job, and because this is a workforce development program. So if there is a workforce development program with any of the college, yes, absolutely. If somebody is interested on, and it has to be available to everybody, though. Everybody that living in Clarkston and he also lost a job because of COVID, and that's doable. And we're definitely gonna talk with the city manager, and we will figure it out. We just heard this today about the money, so we still got a lot of work to do in terms of finding the programs in order to expend this money within the next 3 months. So absolutely feel like we can work out and we can figure this out. And if somebody's interested on any program that will help him with his job opportunities, I think that's a legitimate expense.
I have a question. From what I was hearing Brian Bollinger say last week at the work session, it sounded like his idea was because of the very short time frame we have, to be very aggressive, working more towards employee placement more than training, like rather than training them for a new career, getting them jobs with the skills that they already have, hopefully in an industry or with an organization that'll be less COVID susceptible. And the way those normally work, because I've done that before for a living, is if you, like a placement agency or headhunters, if you will, normally take like 25% of the first year base of the employee that placed. So if you get someone a job that makes $100,000 a year, then the fee to the placement agency for getting them that job is $25,000. Now, I doubt that's the range we're going to be working in, but the numbers are simple. If we get somebody a job making $40,000 a year who's currently not working, we would pay $10,000 as a fee to an agency for having got them that job. And it wouldn't necessarily involve any retraining, but just finding uses and applications for training they may already have. And in that way, you would pay the fee as soon as they, accept the position, and we wouldn't have to worry quite so much about like having the money allocated or spent by December 20th. Is that a legitimate use or more of a legitimate use? Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Okay. But that would still come under workforce development because you can get them jobs much improved from where they were, so.
I think the key, and again, I'm not declaring that this type of expenditure is contemplated, but to the extent it is, the key is going to be limiting it to individuals that demonstrate that they have a COVID-specific hardship.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Absolutely. They either lost their job because of COVID, or let's say they had a business that just went bankrupt because of COVID, or and they have to really prove it. I mean, just like we are doing with the rent assistance. I think the people we already are helping with rent assistance, probably we already have their information. We might be able to be quicker in terms of reaching out to them and see if we could help them find other jobs, or help them retool their skills, or train them something new within the next 3 months. It could be help them with getting a better chance by educating them about how to do their resumes, or it could be anything. I mean, we definitely, the goal is to help as many as we can get better jobs or other jobs, or it could be job training. So that's how I see it.
There are some very clear-cut cases of jobs that are just gone and not coming back this year. At the School of Medicine, there's a whole lot of people employed in doing skills training for the doctors, and the AAMC has said that they will not be doing any more training until 2021 at the earliest. So all of those people are just out of work until 2021. And they have to do something else because there's no one else that does it. It all reports to the AAMC, and it's shut down for the year, possibly longer. So there's some very clear-cut cases of people who have lost their jobs and will not guaranteed get them back before the end of the year, that we could maybe use those same skills that they're using and find another place. So I just think that's an option as well as training. But then we would be using agencies that already do that. Placement companies are out there. There would be professionals, and we would just be reimbursing them for their fee for placing people. We wouldn't have to set up our own program.
Did we vote on this, Mr. Quinn, to allocate $100,000? Is that going to be the language? Mr. Quinn?
Hi, I'm here, but I had a hard time.
That's okay.
I couldn't hear you clearly.
I was asking, so do we vote on this just to allocate $100,000? Is that what we're doing right now?
Well, I think you've got two kinds of votes you can take.
Okay.
And it needs to be specific as to where these funds are being allocated from. So one kind of vote you could take is to spend existing affordable housing funds, and another is to amend the previously approved CARES spending list. And it's up to the council to decide.
We're not amending it. It's going to be the same list, though.
Well, so the difference is, if you allocate money from the trust, then Mr. Gomez will go ahead and start spending it out of that account. And then we think that we'll be reimbursed for that. But, you know, I have a certain level of risk averse, I guess. You know, I don't think we can be 100% confident that that money will be reimbursed. I think it's the most likely outcome, but it's a little different because from the average spending thing that'll be submitted because it came out of a trust fund rather than the city's general fund.
We are on G4 right now. We are talking about workforce development.
Right. So, well, for workforce development also, I guess that wouldn't be I'm sorry, that wouldn't qualify for affordable housing funds at all. So the kind of motion that you would want to make is to adjust the CARES spending plan to add a line item for workforce development and attach a dollar amount to that. And then we would adjust that.
And we're not amending it though. We still going to keep $100,000. So I'm just thinking maybe the vote will be to allocate $100,000 from the affordable house, not from the CARES Act funding.
This was in the budget that Mr. Gomez had written up, the $100,000 for workforce.
Yes.
Right. In other words, that's already been approved by the council.
Okay, perfect. Then I got you. So we don't need anything. So I guess we're just gonna have to dispose this agenda item, I guess.
Yeah, this is Councilman Carroll.
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Carroll.
So I was just thinking, did you all want to do like maybe a more specific vote next month when maybe we've studied it a little bit more to determine exactly how to allocate it, if we want to do any form of training or if we want to just do incentives like Councilwoman Hopkins was suggesting, or do you want to just leave that up to City Manager Gomez? I just wanted to kind of see what the rest of the council thought.
We're going to leave it to the city manager. I mean, the only thing is we are directing the city manager to use $100,000 and whether it is advertising it and then getting proposals, or the sooner the better, because we are running against time. That's why we cannot wait until next month for the city council to vote on this thing. I mean, we already allocated $100,000 and we already approved it, just like our city attorney said. So now the question is, I'm thinking to allocate $100,000, which already has been allocated. So probably there's nothing that we need to do. The city manager already knows what to do. I mean, the idea is to get a workforce development program, and he could update us when he starts it or what's going on. I don't know. I mean, do you have any recommendations, Mr. Carroll?
I'm fine with leaving it to the city manager. I trust his judgment. I just wanted to see what the rest of the council thought. I mean, obviously, I do think it's a good idea to have this workforce initiative program. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, we're good to move forward with it because, like you said, time is short.
I'm wondering if Mr. Quinn's not right in that maybe we should have a special call meeting once we get the CARES money in the bank rather than just go ahead and spend it assuming we're going to get it, on the off possibility that we don't. I mean, because once we authorize it, it'll be spent whether we get it or not. And what do you think?
I think this basically should have been just a discussion, just like G6. So I think we already had a thorough discussion also at the work session. The idea is we already have $100,000 we decided to be used from the CARES Act funding for workforce development. And it's true that we don't have the program going right now, so we are asking our city manager basically to go ahead and talk with maybe we need to advertise that the city council has this program, and we'll probably ask for proposals as soon as we can, and then the city manager will have the discretion of getting which program fit the goals of this project. So I think that's that's really what I feel about it, is to direct our city manager to spend that $100,000 and build a workforce development project for us. And we already approved this amount of money, so I just don't see. Did you want to say, Councilman Carroll?
No, I'm fine with going ahead in that way, as you said.
Yep.
We don't want to make it contingent upon receiving the CARES funding?
No.
I think
Okay.
I already signed the contract, and then DeKalb County signed it. I think there's no point that they're not. I mean, this is just all a matter of a few days before we get the money. I mean, if they find something, they're gonna give us the money.
And I guess I have a question for Mr. Gomez. Does this seem like a bit of a vague program for you, or if we just leave this open, is that something you would be comfortable deciding whether it should be? Go ahead.
I think as the Vice Mayor stated, and we heard at the work session, I would look to work with an existing agency such as the Friends of Refugee to determine because they have a program, what can be done, that, what be it that organization or another organization to create some type of a program to assist people who have been impacted, who have lost their job, and to find skills. But it's, I'm looking through the data now and not finding something specific, but there is language in the CARES Act about assisting businesses and those that have been impacted as a result. But I mean, we'll finalize that. But I mean, I would look to partner with another agency to do this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions before we proceed to the next agenda item? All right. Seeing none, we will move to G5, which is consider joining common cause lawsuit against Trump's census memo. And this is being introduced by me and also Councilmember Johnson. We had discussed this pretty thoroughly as well at the work session, and this is to add the city of Clarkston as a plaintiff in a lawsuit that is against the Trump administration census memo, which is trying to which actually is trying to direct the I think it's Commerce Secretary to actually not count non-citizens on the census, which is really unconstitutional, and there are many cities that already have joined this, including City of Atlanta, San Antonio in Texas, Portland, Oregon, Denver, Colorado, and Dayton in Ohio, and Dallas in Texas. So we would definitely be another plaintiff, and this definitely will impact the city of Clarkston, that is home to so many citizens and non-citizens. The only thing I definitely would like to change is there's a language here. If you see at the fourth paragraph, whereas the city of Clarkston whereas given the city's large immigrant population, some of whom are also undocumented. I want to change the word "are" to "may be." So some of whom may be also undocumented. So I just want to take out the word "are" and replace it with "may be are." So we're just going to add "maybe" to it. That's the only change that I would recommend, but I think this is definitely, and the city this does not cost anything to our city. This is all the cities are being represented pro bono basis. And if there are any questions, I definitely would like to answer them. Or Councilmember Johnson, I'm sorry, do you want to add anything?
I just wanted to let everyone know that the reason we are actually getting involved is because we're such a diverse community, and the Department of Justice actually specified verbatim in the 14th Amendment that all persons, including aliens, residing in this country must be included. So we wanted to make sure that we counted everyone, and regardless of their status, if you want to call them illegal aliens or what have you, everyone should be counted. And if without everyone being counted, we're not going to get the representation that we're due as a community that welcomes refugees. So we just wanted to be a part of this so that we can actually stand up for what we've been working on for years now. So that's it. That's all I have.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Johnson. I totally agree with what you said. And the thing is, there are also people who are between statuses, like who are not U.S. citizens, who are not permanent residents yet, who are, let's say, asylum seekers. They haven't heard from the immigration yet, or something is pending. So the thing is, this would create a confusion. We already have a big immigrant population with language barriers. So I think adding another obstacle is not a good idea. So that's really, we definitely don't want to discourage people from getting counted. We want to encourage everybody to get counted, regardless of their citizenship or documentation status, because they will use our resources. Just like our council member Hopkins said it properly at the work session, they still going to use the roads, they still going to use our education system, they still going to use our hospitals, regardless of your documentation or not. So I think when it comes to counting, we want to make sure every single resident of Clarkston is counted so that we can get the appropriate amount of resources that the city is supposed to get. And we don't want to get a single person left out because of not understanding if they have to be counted or not, or by making sure there is no confusion that everybody is going to be counted. And pretty much, I think that's really what's supposed to have been done. But unfortunately, the current administration is not doing something constitutionally. So I think this is a good thing that we joined as a plaintiff. All right. Are there any questions from the council? If there are no questions, I will go ahead and move to approve the filing of common cause lawsuit against the Trump census memo with a slight amendment of adding the word may also undocumented. So we're going to strike out the word are, and we're going to replace it with maybe. And do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right. I'm not sure who said it first. Councilmember Hopkins? Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any last minute discussion? All right. If there is none, I will go ahead and call out your names. If you could say aye, nay, or abstain. Councilmember Kevin.
Aye.
Councilmember Hassan.
Aye.
Councilmember Hopkins.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
This is Vice Asu. I also vote aye, and this motion carries unanimously. Our last agenda item is a discussion on removing Section 13 2/3 from the Municipal Code, and this is being introduced by Councilmember Hopkins and also me. Councilmember Hopkins.
Hello. As we discussed in the work session, I've realized that there is a valid public safety reason to leave this in the code about having people over 12 playing baseball and softball on the diamonds in Milam Park, because it is a smaller than standard field without any fence around the outfield and directly facing the swimming pool and the children's playground and the dog park. There is a change that I would recommend, because it says in the first paragraph that it defines. Mr. Gomez, could you scroll it up just a little bit more so that we could see? It defines it as playing on a team or practicing, hitting a baseball or softball with a bat while located on the field, or throws a ball on that field. And I do think we can scratch that last throws a ball on that field. We've got an awful lot of people that live in apartments and townhomes that if, you know, a mom or dad wants to go out and play catch with their kid, they don't have a big backyard that they can play catch in, and I don't see it being a great public health risk if, say, Awet wanted to take one of his children out and throw a baseball with him, as long as he's not smacking them out of the park with a bat and raining baseballs down on kids swimming in the swimming pool and the playground. I think throwing a ball would be okay as long as you're not playing on a team. So I think that phrase could be cut. And then I also think that we can just add a phrase that says, for the protection of park visitors on the playground, dog park, and swimming pool ahead of this. And then it shall be unlawful for any person over age 12 to use the athletic fields in Milam Park, which lies between contiguous to Norman Road, for the playing of baseball and softball. Now, adults are allowed to play kickball or do other sports there. It's just baseball and softball, and I think there is a reasonable reason for that. But my motion would be to add the phrase, that phrase at the beginning, for the protection of park visitors in the playground, swimming pool, and dog park, and then to scratch that phrase, or throws a baseball or softball in that field.
I second, as long as Awet promises not to rain baseballs on the people in the swimming pool.
I don't play baseball, but yeah, thank you. And that's the only game that I don't know anything about. I totally agree with you, Councilmember Hopkins. I don't have much to add. Mr. Quinn, do you have any comments on the proposed your language?
Well, I think the language was fine. It makes sense to me. I do have a comment, which is that we really are not supposed to go forward with this tonight, because the agenda item said discuss, and also we don't have the ordinance before us. The charter says that we're supposed to have the ordinance in writing when we vote to amend the code. So, I mean, technically we really should bring it back next month or at the next meeting for a vote.
Right.
Okay.
We will place this item at the agenda for the September work session, October meeting for your approval.
And should we go ahead and vote to table it?
Well, it's not an issue to table because it's said to discuss.
Yeah, there's no item.
Okay, that's fine then. Well, that's all we have on our agendas. Thank everybody. Thank our city staff for all the work that you guys are doing. Thank our city manager. Thanks to all our residents. Please stay safe. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, I second that. We have a motion and a second. All who are in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? All right, we have adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.